Hi, my name is Brian DeLuca, and welcome to today's episode of the Insomnicat show. Today, we are talking to Courtney Boggard. Now, she is going to explain everything you need to know if you want to work in the gaming industry, right? If you want to develop games, this is the one video you should watch. She's going to talk about the skills you need, the attitude you need, the research you need to do in order to land a job at a gaming company. Today we're here with Courtney Boggard. She is head of talent acquisition at Nordeus. So Courtney, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Hey, thanks so much for having me today. So I am a HR professional. I've been an HR professional for a number of years, and I currently work at Nordeus, which is a mobile gaming company, and we're housed here in Belgrade, Serbia. If people don't know where that is, it's just east of Croatia. It was former Yugoslavia, and we are doing pretty amazing games here. We do a soccer management game and fantasy battle card strategy game as well. And so I have been working here for about a year and a half. And before that, I lived in the US my entire life, and I have moved around quite a bit. So I've lived in a number of states as well, but this is my first experience abroad.
Well, thank you for joining us today, Courtney.
Yeah, thank
So,
you.
so thanks for telling us a little bit about yourself, but can you tell us a little bit about that journey, to Serbia and how you landed in this position now? Where in your career did you say, okay, this is the next step?
Yeah, good question. So my entire adult life, I guess, both my husband and I have really wanted to live abroad. We travel a lot and always have. And my husband, who's in renewable energy, and an engineer, we always kind of thought like he works for a global company, it's going to happen for him, and I'd kind of be the trailing spouse. But thankfully, I was connected to the former chief people officer here at Nordeus because my old coworker worked with her. And so they were looking to bring in expats here to Belgrade. And so I thought, I was like, an HR role in Europe, like I'm totally in. And that's how I was connected. And then once I heard about Nordeus and what we do, I was like completely sold on it. We came over to Belgrade. They brought both of us over for the interview process, and we like fell in love with Belgrade. And that was in like a rainy December days. So it's like been amazing ever since.
That's awesome. So what exactly in your role, what can you tell us a little bit about the role itself and what, your tasks consist of and how you deal with employees and hiring and that kind of thing, generally
Yeah.
speaking?
Yep, of course. So when I started, I worked as an HR partner here at Nordeus. And then maybe like 8 months ago, I took over this head of talent acquisition role. And it's been like a really exciting challenge because we do a ton of global hiring and a ton of local hiring as well. And so the biggest thing about Nordeus is we like want to give the world more champions, and that could be employees, it could be in the community, it can be our players. And so we really focus on like a premium employee experience. And to us, like premium doesn't mean expensive. It means like we just want to always do things the best. And so that's really what we do on our journey here for employees. So, for example, like with my role as talent acquisition, we really focus on the candidate experience, and we try to make sure it's flawless. And we focus both, we have similar but different processes for expats and locals. And then for our expats, we just really try to focus on like the whole family, who's all coming, like how do we take away and remove any obstacles and stuff like that. And then the locals, we just want to make sure like they feel really good and passionate about working at Nordeus. We feel really good about them and we want them to work here. So it's a pretty like robust process that we have. But that premium employee experience really runs from candidate experience into the employee experience. And so that's really how we do everything from like a talent management and HR perspective as well.
So, Brian, I know you had a bunch of questions about gaming
Right.
that you wanted to ask about.
Yeah. So how do game companies, what do they really look for when hiring? Because we see a lot of people wanting to get into that industry, like a lot of people, a lot of people that play video games, they want to become programmers or designers.
Yeah.
What do gaming companies really look for when hiring?
Yeah, good question. I'm not sure about other gaming companies, but for Nordeus, what we really look for is like the right type of person. And that to us is like people who want to learn, people who are like constantly trying to improve themselves, improve their skill set, who are super passionate. So we actually hire a lot of people who are making games in their free time, right? So people who are passionate about what they're doing and gaming, and just like really good people, positive, upbeat, super like good about self-awareness and stuff like that. We generally feel like we can train a lot of some of the other like crafts and technical skill sets. But that's like some of the things we look for most. We do look for, especially in specific roles, people who have experience within, we are a free to play mobile company. And so we do look for people in that industry when there's like very specific needs. But the rest of it, as much as we can, like all of our engineers for the most part are coming from schools in Belgrade because we produce amazing engineers here. And so we teach them the rest, as long as they're passionate and engaged and like want to learn and dig in and like they're hard workers and positive, like we would love them to join us.
So in that gaming and sort of immersive technology, with it growing so rapidly, what are the skills or the jobs that are most in demand that you guys have at Nordeus?
Yeah. Lately, I would say it's a lot about data. Because obviously when people are playing, you're getting like the data that you're getting is like, so it's so much data. And so we have lately been hiring a lot of like data scientists, a lot of machine learning as well. And like AI roles where we're trying to think of like what's next or how can we be super innovative for the future. And so that's what I'd say, like, other than like the traditional roles, those are some of the ones that we've been really focusing on hiring.
So how do you, with such a big company and there's so many creatives and so many engineers there, right? And engineers are creative by nature also because they're building things. But how do you bridge the gap from the creatives, like the designers, to the technology? Like how do the teams work and function in order to bridge that gap to create a great product?
Yeah. So the cool part is actually a lot of our, not a lot, I would say probably half of our game designers went to school for engineering. So we have a lot of technical mindset. And then the same way, like a lot of our engineers are super creative. And so the way we work is on game teams. And so you have like art, you have game design, you have like product management, data science, you have engineering, you have like all the groups within the same team. And so what we really try to do is like involve everybody. So we'll have different workshops where we do like very structured workshops and brainstorms where we involve everybody. So that way we are getting like the best ideas and the best products. And so sometimes we actually find that like people who would normally not have that, like it's not within their craft, will come up with the best idea. And so like that's how we really bridge it together, where we're like, it doesn't matter who, it could be any idea, right? And then we're going to find the best idea because we have like the brightest people. And that's how we work together. And like the teams are working like as a group. And so we don't silo and like, oh, all the engineers are working on this floor, all the artists are over here. We're having them really work together in like the everyday, so that way they understand each other and they can like translate things, and they're like all together working really closely.
That's a really good way to look at things. I mean, we've had so many experiences, even with clients, that we're dealing with multiple departments, and we're like, wow, you need to get connected. I mean, like there are so many cool things you guys could be doing if you just work together.
Right.
And we see it because we're on the outside, kind of, like get together.
Yeah. Well, and the cool part is too, not only is it we work in games, but what we also do is when we're like developing a new product or a certain feature, we release it all to our employees. So we're all playing our games before they go public. And so we'll have different Slack channels that will be set up for feedback. So like I will write feedback like, oh, hey, I don't actually understand how to do blah, 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 or like this was confusing. And so like, even though I'm on a people team, that's like still taken into account. Like we do a lot with user research, and like I've gone over to our like user research lab and they watch me play because they wanted to see how I would play the game. And so it's not just like on the game teams, but it's like holistically, and like, let's just come up with the best idea and the best things. And that can come from anybody really. So it does really help.
Absolutely,
That's
because it's
cool.
always building onto what someone has said or developed, and adding to it. Not so much, do you know what I mean? Looking at it
Yeah,
to take away. It's how do you keep building onto what you've created? That makes
exactly.
things better. So
Yeah, totally agree.
totally agree.
So one of the things you talked about earlier was self-awareness, and that was, something that I wanted to ask you about was this emotional intelligence is like the buzzword now when it comes to hiring. And if you look at like the skills that people are listing as what's really valuable compared to X years ago, like emotional intelligence has just climbed up that ladder. So are you seeing this as well? And how do you know if someone is emotionally intelligent when you're, hiring them?
Yeah. Yes, it's huge for us as well, because it does play such a significant part in like who an employee is. What we do is we use a lot of behavioral based questions to ask people to do a lot of like self-reflection, especially like times people like had to like kill their own work, times people made a mistake, times people like looked back and like they would change things. And so we try to do a lot of reflection to really see like people's thought process, and like a time you recommended somebody something and somebody like didn't like accept your proposal, like what did you do, right? So we try to really narrow in on those things so we can hear the stories, and then we're seeing how they think. And then you really know a lot, like are people like, oh well, I proposed this but they didn't want it and it's their fault, it's not my fault, and I wouldn't change anything, and then you're like, you have no emotional intelligence, or like, did you try something different, right? And so we try to use that. And we have a really robust interview process as well. And so we have different competencies that each interviewer will assess. And so we do a number of different things that like are related to emotional intelligence. So we narrow in and try to figure that out. And then collectively we can say, okay, we have assessed, here's some concerns, or here's some like, they're really positive in these spaces. So we do focus on it a lot because that like, obviously plays quite a bit in people's success here.
Is that something you've always kind of implemented as, throughout your career in terms of hiring? Have you ever met somebody and been like, wow, this is a really emotionally intelligent person, like you kind of get that vibe? What is that feeling like for you?
Yeah, you can definitely like tell when somebody is like really like emotionally intelligent, just the things that they say and things that they do. I think it just depends. Like I would say I might have implemented it other places, but I think there's varying degrees of like how much you weigh it. And so some companies might be like, okay, I don't really care if they're emotionally intelligent or not. I need this technical skill, and so I'm willing to hire them. Or like, I'm unwilling to hire anybody who doesn't have this emotional intelligence or resilient, whatever it might be.
Right.
And so it just really, that's, I would say, where the scale varies of how important it is to a company. And it's important for us. And so we obviously take it into account quite a bit.
So Kourtney, what career advice would you give a student or those just starting out that just graduated? I know you mentioned, you guys, get a lot of engineers from some of the universities locally. So what advice would you give them if they wanted to get into that gaming industry?
Yeah, great. First, play games and play the games of the company that you're going to interview with. Sometimes we get that where they're like, oh, I haven't played your game. It's like, it's free. You could play it, And so for sure. And that could be for anything, not just gaming, like obviously know about the place that you are interviewing. I would say that like do your research and prepare. And then have like the appropriate amount of confidence when you're coming to interview. Like you are smart, you've been invited on site for a reason, like in a humble way, like be confident and like showcase your skill set. And then just be like super hungry for learning. Like be reading articles, be reading books, like keeping up on the industry news or other things in your profession as well. And like we're so lucky here. People have so many like passion projects that they're super excited about. So like constantly they're teaching themselves new skills and learning. And I think that's really important and a good way to differentiate yourself as like a recent graduate, and just being positive and just like, putting your most positive face forward. You're, instead of complaining or anything like that, I think like all those things are super important because there are a lot of graduates, and it is important to kind of differentiate yourself. But I think those are like, I guess, the biggest advice that I'd give.
Thank you, Kourtney.
Yeah.
I have one more question, kind of to that point. What would you suggest nobody looking for a job should ever do?
Good question.
What should you not ever do?
Yeah. I mean, I think like negativity for sure, anything about being super negative about your past employer, blaming other people, like that for sure you shouldn't do. And like, you can be learning, or like things might not have been what you wanted, and you should be honest. But I think it's like, instead of saying like, oh, this company was their fault and it's so bad, it's like, here's what I tried to do to improve it. It didn't work. And so then I decided, it's my time to leave or whatever that. And I think, like you should also like for sure know about the place you're going to interview. Like you should not come unprepared and be like, oh, I had no idea what you did. Like, that's shocking. Or, I haven't even looked at your website, or I don't even know who you are, right? So like,
you make games, stop it.
I mean, so yeah, I'd for sure like do not under prepare and like be like really positive and kind of it doesn't have to be fake. It can be, you don't have to be like super outgoing, but being positive, I think is important too.
I definitely agree. I think you should always be positive. You should be positive about every situation, right?
Right. Especially when you're interviewing, don't go in with a negative attitude.
Yeah,
and I
that
think
boggles me. I can't imagine that people actually do that. I've never thought to myself, I'm going on an interview, let me be a really negative version of myself.
Well, I like, it's sad because, people have these skills, like they have really great skills, and you have such high hopes for somebody, and they come in. And like, I would also like not like be very passionate about like the company, and like show your interest and stuff like that. Like, it's not, you don't need to temper it and say like, oh, it would be like fine to work here. It's like, no, if you want to work there, you should like say you want to work there, and here's why you want to work there.
Playing it cool.
Exactly. It's like, that's, people are gonna be like, oh, okay, well, why did I just waste my time interviewing if you didn't want to work? So.
And here's the thing too, you want someone to be passionate about their job and want to work, even if it, to evolve their career, even if it is like that first job, it's like, you need to be passionate about what you're doing, just because it's gonna show across the board. So
yeah, and like, if you're not passionate about it, like, I understand you have to make money and stuff like that, and so like, that aside, you should be doing stuff that you're passionate about, because that's like, it's better for everybody. It's better for your company, it's better for you, and like, you should be living your passion for sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Kourtney, thank you so much for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit maybe about where we can find some, more information on Nordeus?
Yes, of course. And we are hiring expats as well, so I'll put that out there. But our website is nordeus.com. It's nordeus.com. We've got a great career page, a great like FAQ about what it's like to live and work in Belgrade, which is great. And then I would also encourage you all to check out our games, which are available on the app stores on Android and Apple as well. We have Top 11 Football Management. We've got Heroic, Magic Duel, Golden Boot, which is a casual football game. So we've got a lot of good games that I would encourage you to play as well.
Thank you so much, Kourtney.